Good afternoon, members of the media, and thanks for coming. You would have heard by now that in an earlier release that the dispute between the Department of Public Transportation, DPT, and the Bermuda Industrial Union over buses. The parties met this morning and were unable to reach an agreement, and as a result of this, the disruption in public bus service continues. The matter has been referred to the Minister of Labor. Yesterday, the BIU was informed of the government's no work, no pay policy, and that applies to this situation. Recently, I have noticed in social media the word privatization has been used regarding the future of DPT. I take this opportunity to assure you that privatization is not on the table as far as the ministry is concerned. It might be helpful for me to share my vision for the department over the next year. DPT is responsible for moving Bermuda and Bermudians with a quality public bus service that is reliable and efficient. The continuation of the summer schedule allows the department time to build up resources. This includes hiring of additional bus operators and increasing the fleet size to a level that provides the department with the ability to service the public bus runs and dedicated school runs without incurring cancellations. Our goal is to achieve this level of service on or before September 2022. We are currently unable to achieve this goal due to the lack of resources. However, continuing in the summer schedule will allow the department time to build the resources to a level that meets the requirements while simultaneously providing reliable service with little to no cancellations. The ministry and the department would focus its resources around the delivery of the public bus schedule. In order to achieve this, we will utilize the established and approved summer rosters, which does not include school runs. The ministry appreciates the continued public patience and will provide an update at 10 a.m. tomorrow. I would just like to end by once again thanking the public for their patience and apologizing for the inconvenience that this might have caused to you and your loved ones. Thank you.
Members of the media, any questions? Barnes, what was that?
All right. First of all, to the minister, can you give us an update on how these negotiations are going? Are you going to be returning to the negotiating tables later, do you hope?
We tried yesterday, we tried again today, and we reached an impasse. And the policy and protocol is for us to now turn this over to the Minister of Labor for dispute resolution.
Now, Mr. Ferbert, the president of the Bermuda Industrial Union, suggested earlier today that the union might not abide by arbitration, might continue their industrial action despite that order. What is your response to that?
If that decision was to be made, that would be unfortunate, because the only persons that are being affected by this are those commuters trying to get to work, those commuters that can't afford to buy a taxi, those commuters that don't have a car. This is what we are actually working to do. For 2 years, the commuting public, those that use public transportation, have had to suffer inconsistencies, have had to suffer cancellations, and we want to provide the reliable, sustainable, and consistent bus service for them. That's the least that they deserve. And so for us, our focus is on the general public, our focus is on the country to make sure that they get the consistent and reliable service that they deserve and they should have.
Given the issue of bus shortages has been a long-standing one, and the issue of lack of staff for the for the bus operators has also been a long-standing one. What guarantees can you offer bus drivers to say that this is a temporary measure, that this will be resolved by September 2022?
I'm so glad you asked that question. The guarantee we can give is that we have 30 new electric buses that have been ordered, and they are scheduled to leave the manufacturer in November, and they are scheduled to arrive in Bermuda for January. That is a fact. So therefore, when the operators say that they need better equipment, we're providing that. When they say that they need to ensure that the rosters provide them with work to do, because the winter roster seemingly doesn't do that for their extended periods of time where there's nothing to do, the summer schedule does that. But what the summer schedule allows is for consistency for the public, and therefore we know that when I look at the bus schedule and it says 8:15, that 8:15 bus will be there.
Now, can you give us an update on the efforts to bring in these electric buses? You said they're going to be arriving on island in January. When will they actually be able to get on the road? Obviously, there's a degree of installation that's required for the electric vehicles, and I'm sure there's also a degree of training that's required for staff to make sure that they are up to the task of managing these new machines.
I'll let the director of DPT give you the technical details.
Yes, good afternoon, members of the media. We're excited that we were able to finalize the order for the electric buses. You'll be aware that the cabinet decision to approve that purchase was given several months ago. However, we were still working through the charging infrastructure that's necessary to support the electric buses. Obviously, this will be the largest electric fleet on the island and one of the most demanding, and so the charging infrastructure is a significant factor that we've been working through with the Bermuda Electric Light Company. Also, there's a procurement process through the RFP for the upgrade and implementation of the charging infrastructure at Fort Langton Bus Depot. What we learned was that through projecting the timeline for this project, that the completion of that will not be until the summer of next year. And so then the team had to look at interim charging solutions, that leverage the existing Belco circuits and networks at both Dockyard, St. George's, and Fort Langton. We recently completed that assessment of the feasibility, which allowed us to proceed with the order of the new buses with confidence that we will have interim charging solutions in place for January when the buses arrive. Obviously, when the buses arrive, there is a degree of training and commissioning that has to take place, and so we're allowing several weeks for that to occur. In the meantime, there will also be electric vehicle technical training between now and January for our technicians, and retooling of the workshop to be able to support and receive the electric buses. So it's very exciting. It's innovative. It's new. It's replenishing the fleet. It's breaking the mold that we were continuously going through. We have landed on a production vehicle, which means that the vehicles are more readily available. We have landed on a vehicle that is significantly lower cost than what we have been procuring in the past, and it's new assets that are going to allow for the cancellations to go away while we resume normal service. So all around for the operators as well, it's new assets, so it's going to be a better work environment for them, because effectively the bus is their work environment. So we're very excited to deliver on that. Is there a lot of work to do between now and then? Absolutely. We're going to learn things along the way, and we're going to adjust and deliver this for the people of Bermuda and for the staff of DPT.
Now, of course, the buses don't go very far without their drivers. Can you give us an update on the efforts to hire more operators?
That's one for the director as
Okay,
well.
so last year this time, it's been noted in recent dialogue that last year this time we were at the table, and we recognized that we had a deficit in bus operators. We have been operating in a COVID environment, and so normal processes have been challenging, and the onboarding process for new operators has been no exception. I am not satisfied with where we got to in terms of how many we were able to onboard for various reasons. We are looking at that model and how we can create a dedicated campaign that is going to expedite a significant number of operators on board in a shorter period of time. So we're working with the different departments and agencies that we collaborate with on recruitment to ensure that we can reduce the time that it takes to get the operators on board and trained and in the seat. So that remains a commitment. We did make progress last year, but it's not where we need to be.
Now, the union also raised concerns about the level of communication between the current Progressive Labor Party administration and the unions. Can you give us any update on that? How are the communications going between yourself and the union?
I think it might be helpful to give a timeline. The 13th of January, I sat down with the president of the BIU. I expressed to him and gave him a heads up on the budget that was coming down the pipeline with budget cuts and the mitigation factors, meaning the decisions that the ministry and the minister were going to have to make in order to make sure that we provided the best possible service. At that time, January 13th, the president of the union said, "That sounds fair, that sounds good, and I will get my membership on board." I had no reason to doubt his word then. In February, the director met with the BIU executive staff to let them know what was coming down the pipeline, because I did not want them to find out or hear for the first time the implications that the budget would have on their operation. Then in March, I went and mentioned it and read it as part of the budget brief. Then in June, the 6th of June, I believe, the 6th or the 9th of June, we had a dedicated meeting focused on the rosters that was held via a teleconference with the director. And then in July, there was a general meeting which was had with the general operators to discuss the roster and its implications. I believe that that is more than enough communication. And I think that I don't know if you were at the BIU's press conference, but from the snippets that I saw, the BIU and the government agree on the main principles. The fact that we do not have the necessary resources, meaning the budget, the buses, or the bodies. We both agree on that. And that we both agree that the winter roster is not effective or efficient, meaning that significant members will have significant downtime throughout the day while the commuter is experiencing delays of cancellations of 30 to 50 people. And the unions say that it is an issue for the government to fix. This is the fix. To continue the summer roster, to allow us to provide the consistent and reliable service that Bermudians deserve, while making sure that there are no redundancies, no loss of time, and greater flexibility for the operators.
Harry Foster Skelton.
Thank you, Ministers. The crux of this issue, obviously, is the loss of school buses from the winter schedule. BIU suggests that the collective bargaining agreement allows them to have the same winter pick that they've had for the last 20 years. You appear to be saying DPT can change what schedule they pick from, and this is allowed within the CBA. Who is right and who is wrong?
I will allow the director to explain the intricacies of the CBA as it revolves around Schedule 10.
In the past, we have tried to implement new schedules and new rosters, and there is a consultative process once we get to the rosters involving the roster perusal committee, and any amendments to the rosters is done in consultation with the union. The roster perusal committee is responsible for vetting it for errors and omissions, and at the end of that, once there's an agreed set of rosters, they're implemented. That is not what we're talking about here. What we are relying on are two established, approved, and worked rosters for the past 20 years. We've gone in and out of the summer rosters every year whenever the schools are not in school to provide the public bus schedule only. And so we are relying on those established rosters that we have been working since June to continue to focus on the public bus schedule. The pick of work per Schedule 10 of the CBA, and it's available for everyone to read, specifies that there shall be up to 4 picks a year. One of those picks must be at the beginning of the summer and one at the end of summer. And yes, traditionally, the provision for the end of summer pick is to allow for public bus and school bus schedule incorporated into the winter rosters. However, the resources of the business have changed, the business needs have changed, and so we are adjusting within the constraints of the CBA, within the terms and conditions of the CBA, to ensure that we can provide to the public a reliable public bus service while seeking alternative resources, as we did last year, to provide the school bus services.
So to confirm, you consider it perfectly within the agreement to change, using your word, what has been a 20-year tradition?
We are compliant with the pick of work per Schedule 10 of the CBA.
Okay. Can you guarantee then that with the influx of these 30 new electric buses and whatever potential new staff you might be bringing in, can you guarantee that the school runs will return to the DPT following, or return to the bus division following this year of change?
I think that it will be helpful for me to break it down. The winter roster needs 88 buses in order to operate effectively and efficiently. The summer roster needs 65. We currently have 62 operational buses. If you add 30 to the 62, you get 92. So we would be within the threshold to provide the winter roster without having to have cancellations.
So this is just for 1 year?
That is the goal, that is the outline, and that is the objective.
Much of the ire seems to stem from the inconvenience of the summer bus schedule for drivers, shifts that make it difficult for drivers to see their families. How is government taking such things into consideration?
I think that would be one for the director.
So the minister has referenced our efforts to engage the BIU in this conversation. We've said from the beginning that we are open to hearing from the operators, to hearing from the union in terms of what components of the summer rosters are less desirable, so that we can see what flexibility we have in terms of an iteration to the summer rosters. However, we've never gotten past the point of agreeing that we are going to work the summer rosters or some iteration of the summer rosters, and the emphasis has been on simply picking the winter rosters. So the reason this has come to a head is because per the pick of work and the process, the timeline is now upon us where management was required to post the end of summer pick. And because that end of summer pick has now been posted and it is not the rosters that the staff desire, that the union desires, then it has led to this impasse. We are more than happy to engage with expediency in a review of the summer rosters. We can continue to work the summer pick that was picked in June and resolve any adjustments that we can make, or we can continue with this summer pick, which would allow, say, an operator who might have picked roster 1 in June to now pick roster 5 for the fall. However, we have not reached an agreement or come to the table to work collaboratively on that. So our focus right now is getting the public bus service moving again and continuing the dialogue with the union so that we can work through this and any other issues.
From speaking to the union this morning, the interpretation from their point, from them, seems that they don't feel like it's been a collaborative discussion, that they don't feel that their thoughts and intentions are being taken on board. What do you say to that?
I say, let's get the service rolling again. Let's come to the table, look at the components of the summer rosters that are challenging for them, and work quickly to understand what adjustments can be made. However, the third option, which was the winter rosters, which is what the union is proposing, is a non-starter because we did that last year. When we came to the table, we came to conciliation, management conceded, we presented the same case that it was an inefficient use of resources. We ended up with cancellations, we ended up with higher downtime for our operators, and still spending over $1 million on minibuses. That is not fiscally prudent, and it's not fair to the public.
And I think that this would be a good time to add that when I had my meeting with the operators, I told them that I was here to listen and I was here to hear them. And every promise that I committed to making has either come to fruition or is currently in train. And so therefore I believe that is not just lip service, that's actually putting action to it. The bathrooms that you might have heard about, the cafeteria that you might have heard about, St. George's bus depot that has been renovated for them. All of these things were aspects and things that they wanted us to commit to, and including the insurance that the training budget for the specialists was not cut or touched. That was adhered to. That was a promise that has been kept. So the operators have been listened to. They have been heard. We are trying our best to work with them. But this is the time when we have to ensure that the general public get what they need, what they deserve, and what they want, which is consistent and reliable bus service.
Just to expand on something my friend Owen said, today BRU President Chris Ferbert said, and I'm quoting him, "The union doesn't often break the law, but for this issue we might be pressed to break the law," end quote. This was after he was asked what will happen if the case goes to arbitration. He didn't elaborate, but we could presume that this could mean an illegal strike with buses remaining off the road. Is this government willing to go head-to-head with the BRU and even take legal action against them if they follow through with such an action?
I will say right is right, wrong is wrong. And this ministry, this government, is responsible to the people that they represent. And we have to ensure that the people that we represent are the people that we make sure get what they deserve. And in this case, they deserve consistent, reliable bus service, and that is what this ministry is focused on giving them.
Well, my final question is another quote from Chris Ferbert this morning. "The relationship is broken. The PLP has lost its way as a Labour government. They need to find their way back to Labour." From his words, he seems to be indicating that the PLP is becoming a Labour government in name only. What do you say to that?
It's unfortunate he feels that way. As I've shown, we have kept our promises. We are focused on ensuring that the general public, the majority of this country, get reliable, safe, and consistent bus service. That means that we are now changing for 12 months the way that we normally do business. This is not 1995 when we had hundreds of buses in our fleet. This is not even 2010 when we had just under 100 buses in our fleet. We have 62 buses and are being asked by the unions to provide a service that takes 110 in the total fleet, but 88 to provide the service. We must be realistic, we must be fair, and we must be prudent with the taxpayers' dollars and make sure they are spent as efficiently and provide the most effective service that they can.
Thank you, Minister.
All right. Thank you, Minister Lawrence Scott, Minister of Transport. Thank you, Director of Public Transport, Mr. Roger Todd. That concludes our press conference.